All right, good morning and welcome to Morning Man. It's a Tuesday morning. This morning we switched it up a little bit. We were missing yesterday, but we are back. Charlotte, Ray, and myself were in for a good time for as long a time as possible. Ray, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, ladies.
Good morning, Ray.
All right, good morning, Charlotte. What's up?
The sun is even fully out this morning yet.
We beat it. We beat the sun to it. That's what's up. That's
Yes.
what's going on. That's not a bad thing at all. We're up before the sun. That's how you're supposed to be, I think. That's exactly how it's supposed to be. But it's Tuesday, but that does not take away the fact that we still have to be a little thankful. So, what are we grateful for this beautiful Tuesday morning? I'll start. I'm grateful for Uno. Because without you two, I would definitely not be getting up on Monday mornings to do morning matters. And I know I have to get better and do better. So today I will celebrate both of you for motivating me to get up and do better. I mean, last time we spoke, I said, oh, I'm going to work on this software. I haven't. So I'm going to do better on that. But today I want to say thank you to you two for keeping me going on this path that I really should be doing better on, but keeping me here at least. So that's my gratitude today. Tankuno. And for the people that come into Morning Matters that have supported Morning Matters over the past 16 or so years, I want to thank you as well, because without them, Morning Matters would definitely not have gone where it has been. And hopefully, with their help and more people's help, it's going to get even more exposure. So that's my gratitude moment for this morning. Ray, what's your gratitude moment this morning?
I'm just grateful to be here with you ladies and discuss and just to be a part of this. I appreciate you inviting me back, despite all my, I guess, comments about male dominance. And I mean, one day I guess it'll kick in, you know what I mean? But that's why I keep coming back.
Oh, Ray, we understand. It's okay. It's okay. Charlotte, what are you grateful for this morning?
I am grateful to be here, just existence. Very, very much grateful. Rhonda, I didn't realize it was 16 years you've been
On my own?
going.
Wow.
Yes,
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
yes. If we missed the 15-year anniversary, uh, we have to go back and celebrate. But I am very grateful. I'm grateful that I can be here today with Ray on board. But Rhonda, I'm very grateful for you. And again, hope very grateful for Hope's Glow.
Oh, wonderful. I am glad that you like that. Yeah, let's start sharing. For the ones that are in the room, I want to say good morning to you. I want to ask you to share this live, tag as many of your friends as possible, and let's get this conversation started. All right. Sorry, just so you know how today's conversation started. Charlotte probably, I don't know what happens to Charlotte between the 6 days that we don't see her. Then on day fifth five, she sends a note. This is what I'm going to talk about on Monday. And I said, you know what, Charlotte, that's a great idea. Let's do that. So Charlotte chose a topic. I think it's a good topic. I think a lot of people are suffering a lot of loss. And sometimes you have to grieve people that are still alive and in your space. But that's an argument for another day. So the topic today is, what does the Bible say about grieving or about grief? Right? So Charlotte, what made you choose this topic? Let's start with that.
So, in my preparation, as you know, also the co-founder of the Wings of Mind, which is a miscarriage group. It's a group for women who suffered from miscarriage. And also, this month is National Suicide Prevention Month.
Mhm.
And so, I think about the grief that we go through on a daily basis, and then I thought about Ray because I said, okay, we need to stop beating up Ray about this male dominance. But then the discussion came up with another colleague about men and how men grieve and do men grieve. And one of the things was, oh, well, in the Bible, did Jesus grieve? And I said, well, yeah, we there's a portion in the Bible that I remember clearly when it says Jesus wept. And then we started going into the discussion. Should we grieve in Christianity? Should we grieve, or should we be happy that that person is probably in another place? And people would say, "Oh, when you have a loved one that died, oh, they're in a better place." And I said, "But how do you know they're in a better place?" "Oh, but they're in heaven or they're with Jesus." But how do you know that? And should we just be happy for that person when he dies? So all that, these things go through my head. Sometimes I wake up 2 o'clock in the morning and all these questions. And more so in the past week, again, my Christianity belief gets tempted. My faith gets tempted. And the grief part came out. And I said, this is a good one, because if anybody else would know the Bible more, it would be Ray.
Well, I think when it comes to grieving, you brought up a good point about Jesus, that Jesus wept. The thing about me and grieving, everybody's going to do it differently. So you can't say how long someone should grieve. I learned that to go. I'm not the best grievance counselor. When somebody calls me and they're going through a situation, for me to pray with them, but I think it's how long you grieve. You don't want to stay there too long, because then it turns into depression. I find some people that grieve and they're still grieving, like the loss of their parent or something, and it's like 2 or 3 years after that. And I'm not saying that you won't remember, because I talk about my mom every day, but that grief turns into great memories of what I learned from her and what she taught me. So it's different for everybody. And so I'm not going to say there's anything in the Bible that specifically says how you should grieve. Like you said, Jesus wept, but he didn't stay in that grief. I think it turns into depression.
I wish I could contribute to the grief situation. I don't have a lot of experience with grieving, maybe because I avoid it in my own way. Just like Grace said, everybody handles it differently. Both my parents are still alive. All my siblings are alive. My grandparents died when I was on my mother's side, when I was relatively young. My father's parents, I never met them because they died before I was even born. So I don't have a lot of experience with grieving, but I've had friends that have passed, and I can think of one person that passed that definitely affected my life in a big way. But I don't know. That's not something that I can really I make note that they're not here, and sometimes I'd say, "Oh, I what would so and so say or do?" But I can't say that I've stayed in a dark place or felt like I was in a dark place, or oh my gosh, or I don't know. Maybe I just accept it. I really don't know. I don't know. This is one of those ones that I don't know much about, because I don't know how to handle it. Like, if God forbid, but if somebody's, let's say your spouse is supposed to die, I really don't know how to approach you. Honestly, I just want it to go away. Maybe I try to avoid. Like, I just want it to go away. I'd probably send you a note, but I don't really want to talk about it. Maybe because I don't know. That's really just how I am. I don't know. I'd send you a note. I'd say I'm sorry because I am sorry. But that's it. I'm sorry.
I think over the years, me watching my mom go through some things, and people lose like her brothers and sisters, my grandparents, and how they handled that. And I don't know how they handled it when they were by themselves, but I know how they handled it in public. And, you didn't see, there wasn't a lot of emotion. They always had to be strong. And for me, the two closest people that I've lost have been my mom and dad. And I've been with both of them as they passed away. I think I was the last one. My dad, I was the last one to have a conversation with him in the hospital. His last words were to me, I was with my mom when she passed away, like at 6 o'clock in the morning, sitting up and talking to her like I'm talking to you guys. And then the next thing I know that she's gone. So, but watching her, she probably is one of the strongest I've ever met when it came to situations like that. I think I only see my mom cry once, and it was when my cousin passed, and she had just given birth, and she passed away after giving birth. And I think that's the only time that I seen her cry when somebody passed away, and even including her mom and dad. I mean, she was very distraught, of course, but watching her and watching how she dealt with that, and then too, just getting into my Bible and knowing that as you grow closer to Jesus, in His Word, you can find words in the comfort that if you know that people have accepted Christ, you won't know who exactly is in heaven until you get there, but you can know by what the Bible tells you about people that live their life a certain way that they are in heaven, and then that's what strives for me to want to get there.
So, Ray, what do you tell a person? Because I honestly, I do restrain from saying, that person is in a better place. That person is in heaven. Because it's the unknown for me.
Well, and so a lot of times for me, just to buy me knowing some people that have died here recently, when you watch their lifestyle and some people that have just flat out rejected anything that has to do with God or changing their lives. I mean, I just have to go with the Bible says about people who live a life that's unrepentant, that hasn't asked for forgiveness and that hasn't accepted Christ as their Savior. There's some people out there that just want nothing to do with God at all. And the Bible says that, when you're unrepentant like that, that there's only one destination for you. So it's hard for me to talk to some people, not knowing what kind of life they lived. I'll just give my condolences, and but then again, after you may talk to somebody or a family member, let's just say there was one of our council members who was an older gentleman that I got really close to. Well, he died before his term was up. Me and another councilman were able to go, and he was in the hospital, and I worked at the hospital, so I was seeing him quite a bit, and we became really good friends, and we were able to go and to pray with him right before he passed, and he assured us that he had accepted Christ and Christ was his Savior and whatever. So that gave me great comfort in that he went to heaven, because the Bible said some people think they live their life. Somebody can live their life all the way to like the thief on the cross. The thief on the cross never got to apologize, never got to go to trial and get everything, whatever his was. But Christ said, "You shall be with me in paradise," simply because he recognized him as Christ. So I wouldn't want to wait till that last minute to do that, because you never know when you're going to have that opportunity on your deathbed. But it's a very hard topic to come and talk to people when you don't know what kind of life they've lived or what they believe.
So we're saying that somebody could live a horrible life while they have the others. And I know it's judgment, and I know that's exactly what the thieves on the cross did. But it's difficult for me to grasp too. And it's taking us into another topic when you're saying somebody can live that horrible life until the last couple breaths, and then they're forgiven and they get to go to heaven, while you have Sally Sue that's trying to do everything and changing over their lives and living it by the book and being that person.
Well, that's so wonderful about the God of the Bible that we serve, is that he is so gracious and merciful that that's all that someone has to do is recognize him as Christ and ask for forgiveness. There's a lot of people with the recent events that I won't go into that I don't understand that when somebody does something horrible to somebody, they can be forgiven, and that's hard for people. It was hard for me for a long time to know that somebody could do something such as kill somebody or whatever and be forgiven and still go to heaven. It's a hard thing to grasp.
That part, I'd have to say that is why he's God and we are not. Because I was saying the other night, if I go to heaven and I see some people in there, I'll have to have a talking with God, because I am not God, right? But I understand that God is God. So God sets his rules and he understands and he forgives and he opens the door for whoever fits the qualifications, if you will. And some of this, you know what, God forbid, but there's a chance that not all three of us will make it. I mean, there's I believe there's always that chance that not all three of us, we're here every day and we would like to make it. But Ray might say he will make it. I might say I will make it. Charlotte might say she will make it. But there's a high possibility that I don't know if all of us will make it. We will do, because I am not sure completely how you make it. I know just like Ray and just like Charlotte, that this is what the Bible says. You're supposed to accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior. And I believe if you have time after that, because some people accept him at the 99th hour, but if you have time after that, the right thing to do is to honor God. And you honor God by the way you live your life. So, like Charlotte says, well, how some people could be savages their whole life and then get cut a break. I mean, if you say it is one thing, but if you believe it, it's a different thing. So I don't know how God deals with that. If I say, oh, I need to do it right now because I need to get in, as opposed to I knew this 10 years ago, but I wasn't so frightened then and I'm frightened now. So I don't know all the semantics with that because I'm not God. I encourage people to just honor God every day. So, because that's what you should want to do. Not because you want to, it's like, oh, I'm going to come and suck up to Charlotte because I want to come and stay at her house for 3 days. No, just do the right thing all the time, and then the right thing will happen to you, because you don't know when your last breath is going to be. Some of us, and I say some people are fortunate that they get to be sick before they die. The people that are sick before they're dying, that before they're dead, in my opinion, get a lot of opportunity. They get the opportunity to make good with God. They get the opportunity to make good with their children. They get a huge opportunity that not the man that gets a heart attack or get knocked down by a car or dies in an explosion. Those people didn't get the same opportunity, if you will. And I don't know how God have it set up, you understand? Or the person that, to go back to your cause, Charlotte, the person that dies at birth. I think the person that dies at birth is still pure, I think. Right? So that person, I think, goes back to God. I think that person comes to teach the living a lesson. So they came to do something for the living, for the mother, for the father, for somebody. They come as a lesson. But I think their soul is still pure. It hasn't been corrupt, and it goes straight back to God. But again, I don't know. Good morning to you, Miss Westby. How is life? Good morning, Hilton. Good morning to all the people in the room. Yeah, I don't know. If you guys want to join the conversation, feel free to join the conversation. Tell us your thoughts on grief and how you make it. What do you say to somebody that has lost somebody? I think I want to go with Ray by saying, just send out your condolence, because you don't know where they are. People like say, oh, he's in a better place or she's in a better place. You don't know. That's the truth. You don't know.
So, and there's when I say that, I don't know for some people. I don't know. I do know by what I believe that my mom and dad are in heaven, based on me being around. So, you got to be around somebody, me being around them. I do know for sure. And so sometimes you can sound like you're cocky or do whatever. I do know 100% sure that Ray is going to heaven. I have no doubts about that. None at all. the reason why I say that is because of my understanding of what God has done in my life and what he's required for me to do in order to see him again. Now, I'm not saying that Ray's perfect. And so sometimes when you talk about people getting to heaven after they've done some horrible things, well, see, that's people that have put different levels on sin. God doesn't have any different levels. One sin's not greater than or worse than the other. So, I mean, if you're a liar and you're still a liar, you're still unrepentant, and you haven't asked God for repentance to come and to be able to do this. And that's the only thing. And he going in, reading the Bible, for me, going in, reading the Bible, having him renew my mind from the way that I used to think and the way that I used to live, the way I used to treat people, the way that I deal with situations that come up that a lot of people say, man, I don't know what I'm going to do. And this is a whole process. It helps you in that whole thing with the grieving thing, knowing that he's there, and you're hoping that people, and so that's why it's a great goal of mine that I've been pushed to this week, to be more bold, to share the gospel with people, and not to share at them, but to share with them what God has done for Ray, and that he'll do the same thing for you, and to try to get them to relate to me about my past failures and my bad decisions and how that I got through my mom and dad passing away. And with me sitting with my mom, and so the one thing I think I may have talked about this before, but me sitting with my mom and what I witnessed, that I will never have a doubt that she did not enter into heaven from what she told me those last few 10 minutes that we had a conversation and what happened. It was supernatural that I sat there, and for that moment, God was letting me know, not that she was going to heaven, but that I could go too, by simply following in her footsteps and not knowing she was perfect, but to let God continue to renew my mind and to thirst after him to change me every day. So it's, and there's a lot of division right now in the United States of America, and the people are giving the devil a tool that he causes chaos. And God wants to bring us together. And like I said, some people honor people different, and some people have worship at churches different. People say, "Oh, you shouldn't worship like that. You shouldn't do that." And hey, it's okay. But the thing about it is, everything that happens when you read the Bible, every event that happens, I think, is for you to look at yourself and say, what are you doing? What are you doing? Not what the man across the street doing. What are you doing? How are you living? So that's what I try to do every day. That's why I throw at my wife when she comes at me with something crazy. I say, what are you doing? How are you living?
That's an argument for another day, Ray, that we definitely want to address, because I was going to say this savage-like behavior is not always the winning behavior. Okay, but that's just my opinion. Sometimes they say that you get more you catch more what with honey than with you catch more flies with honey than with vinegar.
Yeah.
So what I do want to elaborate on the fact that I believe as well that not only in America, across the world, there's a lot of chaos right now. I mean, you don't know what's happening in Belize, but when I look at what's happening in Belize, every day I read news. I'm not home, I'm here, and I see, like yesterday, for instance, and I hate to talk about bad news, because bad news is not what I'm about. Not at 7:00 in the morning. I don't want to be talking about bad news, but I want to say condolence to the family that lost two people at the same time yesterday, to an elderly couple. I don't elderly, it's probably not the right word, because I think they're in their 60s, and we're all almost there. Some of us are, so it's not too far apart or far away, but they were shot. I don't know the circumstances, but I know that has to be hard for everybody. They have 8 children totally. That's a big deal. I'm sure that lots more is happening that we don't hear about. So we definitely have to see that we can't. Then we see what's happening in the States. Then we see what's happening in other parts of the world. It's really chaotic in my mind. But we can't be too quick to judge, or else we become the people that we're judging. That is my argument. So if I say Tom Jones was such a savage, or Mary Jane was such a savage, you can't say that. because then who are you? If
But
I say,
if they were a savage, they were a savage.
but no, yes, they were, or maybe I don't know. But what I am saying is, we only see a part of them. So I'm not taking up for anybody. I'm not going to get into that argument, but I want everybody to recognize that it is not our place to beat them down, whoever they are, because when we beat them down, we create the society that we're trying to avoid. So, for instance, let's use Ray because he's in here. And we might say, we don't say this, Ray. I mean, we don't say it loud, but I'm just joking. Well, we don't say it. We might say, Ray's a savage. Ray yells a lot. This is not the truth, but this is just hypothetical for anybody that's watching. And Ray's always talking bad about women and children and whatever. God forbid, right? But we don't know Ray. We see that what might seem like a big side of Ray, we see that small side of Ray because Ray decided that he is going to expose it to the world. And now we come in and we say, Ray doesn't deserve anything good because he doesn't like women and children. But we don't see the other 80% of Ray that goes home, loves his wife, loves his children, contribute to society, donate, whatever goodness that is in Ray. Remember now, everybody have good in them. And we are not God. We might say it, or I might say, it's easier for me to avoid Ray because some of the qualities that Ray display, I don't really align myself with. But I don't have the right, all right, I have the right, but I really shouldn't use my time to wish Ray bad. Because like Ray said this morning, what does that say about me? Why should I, as a good Christian, sit in my house and say, it's a good thing Ray lose his dog because you see how he talk? God punish him, he lose his dog now. Tomorrow I can lose my dog. How then do I want to be treated when I lose my dog? Because none of us on here or anywhere are perfect. None of us. And we've all done something to offend somebody. Some of us are better at it and some of us are not so good at it. But if we mind for we business and just do right, just do right. No get into the argument of this one is better than that one and that one is don't feed into it, because when we feed into it, we feed into separation, we feed into distance. Because somebody out there, or maybe a lot of people out there, can say Rhonda Creighton is an awful woman. They would be wrong. Just so you know, in case you are wondering if what, right? They would be wrong. But there's a high possibility that I offended somebody to a high degree at some point in my life. Remember, on this journey, we were not always where we sit right here. Everybody hurt somebody in a way that that person feel is immeasurable, and that person feel is just wrong and hateful and painful. Do I want to be judged for that I did a day ago, 10 years ago, whenever? No, because that's not who I am as a person. That's a part of who I am or who I was. So I think for us to get on better, and I mean straight across the board, we have to start to look for we don't have to associate with everybody. We don't have to like everybody, but we really shouldn't be wasting our time demeaning and judging and belittling everybody, because if we were to look, we have something that can be demeaned and judged and belittled all the same. That's my spiel for this. I done. Have
So
you
right now, will say if you're a dog, then say, "Oh, everything happened for a reason, man. That's why the dog died."
Yes, that one dog dead. Well, if Ray Dog dead, I will make note that Ray Dog dead, and I might say, you see, no Ray, I feel a little pain because he bring a lot of people pain. But really and truly, I don't really need for go there. The human in me might want to say that. I might call Charlotte and say, you see, God got punishment, make it feel some sadness. But really, I shouldn't do that, because that is not bringing any good to this world. It's not contributing. Go ahead, Ray.
I tell you this about dog dying. You definitely don't want to call Ray when animals pass away, if you have animals, because I just don't have any. And I don't I know people get close to the animals. I know they get, and they almost treat them like better than humans. And so when people have animals that pass away, they know not to call Ray because they know they're not going to get any kind of sympathy. Or I'm not a dog lover. Now, I don't hate them, but um, I don't get people that grieve more for their animals than they do for humans. So I don't at all. I mean, um, because it's an order. It's an order that. So I have to look at God and says, how does He look at this dog and this human? You know what I mean? And He values the human more than He values that dog or whatever animal it is, cat or whatever it may be. So we had a dog that. Well, let me scratch that. My kids had a dog, and my wife had a dog because Ray didn't have a dog, but they had a dog, and I allowed them to have it, and it passed away. And it was hard for me because they were really upset, and I didn't want to be insensitive, you know what I mean, and not that say I wasn't glad the dog died, but I wasn't upset it. And so I had to pay that coach for them because I didn't want to hurt them and say, you know, but they knew that, they know that, and the dog knew that. When I came to the door, the dog would come running, and when it saw me, it put the brakes on and went the other way. So it knew not to mess with me. So it was a good dog, but when you talk about grieving, people grieve differently in those aspects too.
You know, Ray, I have a dog, and if my dog should pass, Ray, you will have some kind of empathy towards me because he's been with us for over 15 years. But Rhonda, going back to what you said and looking at the media, social media, and what has been happening in our country in the past couple of weeks, lots has been happening. Um, Lots of things has really been very grave. But yesterday, when I sent you this topic too, I was reading some of the comments about a young man that went to prison, and you know, a lots of men are saying, "Oh, the man a cry, cry, cry like a baby. The man that cry now, the man, you know, it's like you're seeking joy in somebody's grief."
Yeah.
And then I think, well, and so what if the man cries? That's the problem in Latin America and the Caribbean. We have a lot of machismo. Men don't express their feelings. And if they do, we look upon them as if something is wrong with them because they express their feelings. And it's quite okay for a man to cry in public. Does it make them any lesser of a man?
No,
I
long as they don't cry too much.
no,
Okay.
no, 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 no.
Cry all the
Race,
time.
this is not a question.
You don't want a man that cries all the time. You don't.
Ray, stop it.
No, no,
Yes. Okay.
no,
Go
no.
ahead, Ray.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Ray. Go ahead, Ray.
No,
You first.
you because when you as a man, I mean, no other man wants to hang around with a bunch of men that cry all the time. It's just part of the thing, you know. I mean, and plus when you got two people, if you got a man and a woman that cries, you got a house full of crybabies that cry all the time, man. Nobody knows how to be, you know what I mean? You got to be strong a little bit. I'm not saying you can't cry ever. You just can't cry all the time about everything.
Okay. So I don't agree with Ray. Well, I shouldn't say I don't agree with Ray because Ray knows that. I agree with Ray to maybe 2%. And really the 2% is the every time part is where I say, okay, and for everything. But a man that cries is a man that is aware of his emotion. He's sensitive. And every woman wants a man that is sensitive and realistic. We don't want a man that is cold and heartless and pretentious. And a man, I think, you don't need to cry on the road, right? You don't need to be crying on the road outside of your house, but in your home, you should be free to do anything you want. And expressing your emotion in terms of crying, you are welcome to do that because it doesn't make you a weaker man. It makes you a man that is human with feelings and emotions, and you are expressing them. See, me, I cry all the time. Some of you will never imagine it. Some people will never imagine it because I don't go on the road and cry, but I'm sensitive. I am emotional and I have feelings, and I will let off a good cry when I feel the need to, because I know on the in my house pretending to be tough when something affect me emotionally, and I expect the same from my partner, because there has to be a place where you can let it all out and let it all off. And if I see my guy crying, I'm not gonna stop your foolishness, suck it up. I'm not gonna say that, because he's human. So if he cries every day when something affects him, or every time he talks about something, or remember, now he's human. But I kind of get what Ray says, but I think Ray means it in a different way. Ray don't want the man cry once a day. If you don't cry for the dog, you don't cry for the dog. 3 days from now, when you talk about the dog, no cry again. So
why can't he cry again 3 days?
I think he can. He can cry as often as he wants in this house. He is. Ray said no, but you know why? Because he can't be judged by the fact that he has emotions. That doesn't mean that he's not a great leader. That doesn't mean that he's not a great husband. That doesn't mean he's not a great father. That doesn't mean he's going to sit and cry with his children all the time, because he has to understand the roles and the rules and the regulation. I'm not going to cry in front of my children all the time, but when I get in my room and I'm happy, I will cry. And he can cry. We can cry together. Talk done. Go ahead, Reed.
But if he cries all the time, it means he's being led by his emotions sometimes. I say yes, somebody. I mean, and when does it stop? When do you get control of your emotions? I'm saying, what are you crying about? And now it becomes easier to cry, and you're crying all the time, and you want that sensitive man. Somebody breaks in your house, you don't want a sensitive man. You don't want a man that's going to cry and say, what are we going to do? You want a man to take action. So I think crying all the time, I'll give a man, he can cry set a limit, maybe twice a month. If he wants to do that, that's good. But that's more than that, twice a month, and it has to be some drastic situation. I mean, I'm not saying a guy can't cry, but I think when a man, and you'd have to take a poll of women who say that they want a guy that cries a lot.
Nobody wants a guy that cries a lot. We want to create a space where the guy can cry. That is the difference. We're not looking for a crier baby.
What's he crying about?
Whatever he feels like, Ray. But I want to read this. Because Miss Westby is going to go, and I think that she thinks that the crying was about Andrew. I want to say good morning to all of Andrew's friends and family and supporters. I am one of them. Don't be despaired. Don't lose faith. So we're going to get to Andrew in a little bit. He says he wasn't crying all the time. The young man went to prison when there's a lot of more people far more than him. Nothing is wrong if a man cries. If men are allowed to cry and express their feelings, we will have better men. I don't know where Ray is going with this conversation. I will have to excuse myself. I guess she has to go to work. But I think Ray no want no cry, but Ray could explain for his position. But let me just take this to Andrew. I don't think that it is. I don't know if they're saying that Andrew will cry, but make I tell you something. If I went to jail, I will cry every day. There's no care how bad and tough I out here, I will cry every day.
I would bawl.
Exactly.
I would bawl.
I mean, and any human being that's not accustomed to being locked up, that's accustomed to the free world, will cry. If you go to jail and you don't cry, something wrong with you. Let's start with that.
If you go to jail and you cry every day as a man, there's something that's going to be wrong with you.
Why?
Because you're crying. Because other men, you cannot do that in prison in front of other men and be weak like that. You will get abused. You can't do that. So you're going to have to suck it up and find out. And maybe you might go cry when them lights go out and put your pillow over your head so nobody hears you, but you're not going to cry out loud in prison as a man.
Well, Rhonda, we got to make sure that morning matters get shown at these prisons so these prisoners can understand.
It's important to
be But I have to say this. I have a son. He's 28 years old. And that I've majority of the time, like everyone knows by now, that my husband has been gone because he was in the military. But I raised my son. He has two sisters, and I raised him to be very empathetic. And I always tell him, son, if ever you need to cry, you cry. You let out that emotion. Because, son, I want you to know that when you have that spouse or that wife and you see them crying, you will have empathy for them.
Absolutely.
And you will be able to comfort them in their hurt. And I think that is what in grieving, Ray, especially in the Caribbean, that I want to see more men have empathy. And if they do, then we will see less domestic violence. We will see less abuse. Men will start to understand that women, yes, many of the times our hormones are higher and we have high emotions. But if they show that, then the woman will also understand that, I have a companion in Christ. This man and I can move together forward. And this is why I say it's important for a man to show grief and a man to grieve. And it's important that his female children and his spouse be able to see him grieve and comfort him. And if today, Ray, your dog dies and you cry in front of your children and wife and they comfort you and you think 3 days later you hit a ball that the dog used to have and it brings back a memory and you shed a little tear, your wife will comfort you again.
It's okay.
Well,
He says that will never happen.
but I understand what you're saying, but then and I'm just going to be honest. And so my wife cries. She's a crier, and I know that when we get into something, she's going to cry. She's very emotional, and so
Right.
I expect that. But I'm not moved by crying. I mean, so somebody could be crying in front of me and blocking the TV, and I'm like, "Hey, move! You're blocking the game."
Oh, geez.
You know what I mean? Because it moves you into a man. For me, a man being too emotional, and then so when you think about it seriously, when you think about the more emotional person in the relationship is normally the woman. Am I correct?
Generally, but that does not, you said most, but the man should have some common emotions. And like you said, when they're crying in front of the TV, you can wait. It's important. I mean, even if it's not important to you,
it could be overtime in the game.
To them should be important to you, even if you can't understand the emotion. You should want to be a part of the solution. Not that they're crying, but that they're hurting, and this is how they express their hurt. I want to read what Hilton says. It says, if we allow our men to express their emotions by crying, we can get better from more of them. And I believe that empathy would be learned. Mm-hmm. That is a macho thing. I think she's now referring to what Ray's saying. Yeah, that machismo thing is not sexy.
You can't get what you want out of your man if he doesn't cry?
No, that's not what we're saying at all. None at all. That's not what we're saying. So we're not going to go there.
But it's all what you want, not what he.
No.
Yeah, you said we can get more out of our man if he cries.
No, that's not what you see. That is what is wrong with the world. They take one sentence and they want to twist it into how they. That is not what she says.
That's what you said.
The person says, if we allow them to express their emotions, they will learn empathy. And if they learn empathy, we can get more out of them, not only as our husbands or our brothers, but as a human being. That is what I understand.
Get more out of them how? What more?
Because they will become more empathetic. they will become more understanding. They will become a better support. I agree with that person.
They will think twice before they lift up that weapon or that
A fat
hand
spoon,
to hit you.
I
right?
don't know.
So they're no, don't misrepresent what they said. They're not saying, you know what, ladies, go out there and find yourself a soft, crying, effeminate man and make him your husband. Nobody wants that. That's not what we're saying. Because a
It's our
husband that
world
cries
today.
could look just like Ray. A husband that is empathetic can have the same features and disposition in the world as Ray. But when they get home, they transition into a softer version of themselves that is more that brings a different avenue or a different energy into the home. But I'll tell you what. So we might never agree on this, but this is definitely something that I think we should talk about a little bit more because it is important. What is wrong? I don't know anything about the American society. I know Caribbean society. Caribbean society, when you are growing up, I think it's similar to how the Southern people raise them children. When you are growing up and a boy starts to cry, the first thing your mother, what? Stop it. You're a boy, you're a man. Stop your fool. You're a human being. And if you know what is, oh, this is going to be a long time, but I know I have to go because I have something that I have to do. But what I want to say is that if you notice, and I'm going to leave with this and then everybody else can wrap up. If we notice, when you hear that there's a school shooting, it's never a girl. It's never a girl. Whenever you hear there is gang violence, you don't hear 50 women will form a gang and they're going to start to sell drugs and they're going to shoot up a neighborhood. You don't hear that because women don't think like that. Their minds don't work like that. They're more empathetic. We're not trying to turn our men into women. We're trying to create a better balance. We're not preparing them to go to war. They're not going to be going to an enemy country and trying to kill off 500 people without feeling. That's a different set of rules. But if you have a son, you want him to be well-rounded. You want him to be emotionally available. You want him to be balanced. You don't want him to be a savage. So you don't want him to be sissy either. You don't want that. You want a balanced human being. And how you make that is to create room for every emotion that they have. Anger, happiness, sadness. Every emotion needs to have a space because when that space is lacking, they will express it in a different way. And that's my argument for today. I'm definitely going to wrap up. I have somewhere else to be. I'm going to leave the final word with Charlotte. So I'm going to ask Ray what your thoughts are. What are your final words, Ray?
I want every man to cry less and be a man.
Why did I know Ray was going to say that?
I want to hear Charlotte.
I want to hear Charlotte too. Charlotte, we are depending on you to wrap it up strong.
I am just, we keep praying. We have gratitude for people and that people will wake up one day and have empathy and that we will love on Ray until Ray is able to cry. And when Ray's wife calls you and then say, you know what? Ray just cried because we knocked the dog down.
You want to see Ray cry? Don't get out in front of the TV and block the game. That's when I'm going to cry.
You know what? We're going to have to get Stephanie's number so when Ray cries, we know because he's never going to come here and tell us. That's the bottom line. He's never going to say. We're going to have to get another person to document that for us. But guys, I want to say thank you. Definitely, we look forward to more conversations. Ray, you have something else you want to say? Go right ahead.
No, I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to be surrounded. And maybe by the next time I'll come back, I'll have a good cry and be able to tell you guys that you guys really helped me on this show.
Guys, until we meet again, have a lovely day. Bye-bye.
Bye.